Welcome to the HR Empowerment Podcast, where we will uncover strategies and new insights from HR professionals who discuss up-to-date regulations, best practices, and the most pressing topics like diversity and equity, leadership, dealing with difficult situations, and much more that affect your bottom line and business. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back. Wendy Sellers here, the HR lady. We are here today to talk a little bit about administrative talent because we cannot get our jobs done without the admin team. So today we are joined by Bonnie Schutz, CEO of TRS, a woman-owned remote support agency and premier administrating recruiting firm based in Colorado. Welcome, Bonnie. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me, Wendy.
Absolutely. So, we're recording. I know this one probably won't come out in a couple weeks, mid-February. How's the weather out there?
The weather is decent in Colorado. I cannot complain. I think this whole winter we've had maybe 3 snows and nothing that stuck.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming today. Tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and how you got to where you are now.
Absolutely. So without dating myself, but with dating myself, I was nearly 30 years an executive assistant in corporate offices in the C-suite when I had this epiphany that I wanted more. This was 10 years ago. And so I decided to make my stars align. Like I say that, make them align. They aligned and I was able to start a side hustle at the time with my bestie at the office who was the recruiter. And we decided I was going to become a recruiter because that's what she knew and she could teach me. And so but we would specialize and she would be a tech recruiter and I would be an admin recruiter. And because I had been in the shoes of every admin role you could think of back in the day. And so she and I started Tandem Resource Solutions, which is what TRS stands for, as 2 little girls on a tandem bicycle.
I love it.
Our first logo. And we'd sneak into, now that you're HR lady that I don't work with, we'd sneak into the conference rooms and do our side hustle in my company conference rooms, which neither one of us work there anymore. So we're good. But yeah, I quickly learned that, we were ready to recruit, but we didn't know how to sell, that kind of thing. We didn't know how to find clients. And so I started networking a bit more, which was something I really didn't have to do as a corporate EA because I didn't have to bring in sales or bring in clients or anything. And so I began networking and reconnecting with old bosses and old executives, not old as an age, but previous bosses and previous executives that I worked with and asking them, boy, how do you build a business? I want to be just like you. How did you do that? And the commonality between each conversation was that you need to network and you need to create relationships and build that. And so I got out there and I just hoofed it. And I learned that, it's time, if I wanted to work, for me to leave my job and give it 100%. Now, my partner couldn't do that, but that's okay. We're still besties, and she couldn't do that like I did. It was just her stars weren't aligned. Mine were, so I left corporate in 2017 to run my recruiting firm. And another smack in the face pretty quick was that, Bonnie, you're still not learning how to sell. You still don't sell. And so you're not making money in between these recruitments that are kind of falling in your lap from connections. And so I'm like, the only thing I know how to do is be an admin. I'd been one for nearly 30 years. So I said, well, I've heard of this thing called virtual assistants. And excuse me to all your listeners out there, but all I thought of my naivety in the day was that it was a call center in the Philippines. I had no idea what a virtual assistant was. And so I just took a chance and I went to Craigslist looking for something else and saw a job ad for a virtual assistant. And so I thought to myself, boy, what do I do all these years when my bosses are traveling and I'm at the office? I'm a virtual assistant.
Right.
My bosses always traveled. And so I quote unquote sold myself as a virtual assistant with that background. And I got a gig, a true legit gig from a Craigslist ad. And so
I love it.
Yeah. And so I was able to work from home, doing my recruiting business, still building that. But I had this other silo of my business I was developing as a virtual assistant. And I had that one client, but I put it out there on LinkedIn and I swear my virtual walls were knocked over because my network was mostly either executives or executive assistants. And when I announced that I had this new shiny thing called a virtual assistant that I am, um, my friends and colleagues in the EA space were like, I want to work for you. Please let me work for you. Because this is back in the day, pre-COVID, where EAs did not work from home. They could
Right.
not work from home because oftentimes they were the not only the assistant to the CEO or C levels, but they were also office managers and things like that. And so they needed to be in the office. So they saw me throw out that shiny object and like, I want to work for you. And I was like, wow, me, little old me, just a secretary. Like, wow, I was so humbled. But then I had another epiphany. Boy, you mean I could have a team of VAs working for me and I could still do my recruiting. They could run this recruit or this VA business for me. And like, yes. So then birthed the second silo of Tandem Resource Solutions, which became a VA agency. And pretty much took over the recruiting side too, because
I
that
love it.
side,
Well,
it
thank
just
you.
totally propelled beyond means, of the recruiting side. The recruiting side held its own, but the VA agency grew. And I was still a VA myself as I was growing it. And to this day, I still support two clients in my multi six figure agency. So it's something that was at my core and it's something that I love to do. And I still want to do it a little bit, not only for me, but for my team to be in the trenches and know what they go through on a day-to-day basis and the kind of support they need from me. So that's where we are, like almost 10 years later. I can't believe it. I'm
Well,
loving it.
congratulations for your
Thank
success.
you.
And you know, you just hit something right at the end there that I think is very important for our listeners to remember that we do occasionally have to still put ourselves in the seats of the people that we're delegating to, right?
Yep.
Or that are trying to be up and comers because I find all too often as the HR lady that when people start climbing the org chart, that they forget about their employees and they forget to say, you know what, I was there once and somebody did or did not help
Yep.
me. So please don't forget about your employees. Let remember, especially with new technology going on now.
Yeah.
Try to get into their seat, literally, even if it's just for a few tasks, to say, all right. I now know what kind of pressure you have on you or whatever might be going on. Speaking of that, I actually was reading a stat from McKinsey Workforce Productivity Studies, and it says that companies that effectively delegate administrative tasks, any department, but effectively delegate administrative tasks, they can improve executive productivity by up to 33%. I mean,
Wow.
heck, if you are sitting here thinking, hey, well, how does a virtual assistant or executive assistant or even, outsourced recruiter help my business? If we can help the executives be more productive, they're going to buy into the fact that, hey, can I get a helper on my team?
Exactly. And I know this now because I say that on a daily basis.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Bunny, administrative and executive support roles have historically been viewed purely as tactical. How are you seeing these roles evolve into strategic business drivers for organizations?
Oh wow, yeah. There's definitely been an evolution in 40 years. Um, there's definitely been an evolution. Like even as I kind of described myself on my journey, and in the self-deprecating, just a secretary thing, like there's been a different evolution in the what a admin person is titled and called that I've seen. So executive assistants have always been that. Well, secretaries are executive assistants, but now since I've left corporate, they have evolved and grown into other roles such as chiefs of staff and fractional or COOs, CAOs. So there's a ladder that an EA can hop onto, as they develop their skills into a higher strategic position, they can grow into those roles. So one thing that I remember from the past, which was what affected me getting laid off several times, was that when the layoffs came because of budgetary reasons, the first persons to let go were those that were non-revenue generating. And so I've seen this evolution to where that was stuck in our heads back then, so that we started to evolve into showing ways that we can generate revenue and truly either literally or by freeing up our executives times so that they can do that better and have
Yeah,
more time to do
exactly.
it.
The Harvard Business Review did a time management research and said that they say that executives spend nearly, this blows my mind, 16 hours per week on tasks that could be delegated, which
Ah.
would then, improve their strategic focus and productivity. So this goes right in line with what you're saying here. So please, listeners, if you're trying to figure out a way, how can I help myself or the people above me so that then I could look like a hero, is trying to get those executives. I don't care if you're in a small business or a giant company. Small businesses, it might be a little bit more difficult, but this is where the virtual remote assistants
Mhm.
external come into play. 16 hours per week. I think many people, I don't care if you're an executive or, a receptionist, would be like, yes, please
Yes.
help me.
Exactly.
So let me
No,
ask you.
that's a tough call sometimes to get them to give that up, but
It
boy.
really is. It really is. But it's also comes down, that's a whole other conversation, but about
Yeah,
trust and respect and things like
that's
that.
some of
And
the notes I have down in front of me.
yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
So I know that you specialize in remote support professionals. What are companies in general getting right and wrong when
Mhm.
building and managing remote administrative personnel or entire teams?
Yeah, I think there's been a whole lot of that, and it has to do with that little devil I mentioned earlier, COVID,
Mm-hmm.
that a lot of people either lost jobs or just started businesses. I don't have the stats in front of me, but I know there's a lot of women, like maybe me, in their second acts, so we say, who started businesses of their own or started consultancies, whatever you want to call it. And so, businesses out there right now, that what they're getting right is because of all this happening during COVID, they realize that they're more open to letting other people into their businesses or into their positions that were vacated because of that. And so um, the openness to it is one thing that I can't help but express highly, because it's not always been open, because they're like, when they're deciding what they need in help, it's not always an admin. That's because, again, it goes back to the revenue generating thing.
Right.
But they're learning, because hopefully through podcasts like yours, mine, and everybody's, like, delegation is definitely an elevation tool. It will not carbon copy you, but it will copy you into, almost like those little memes you've seen where somebody's sitting at a desk and they got 8 arms going in different directions. They can be those other arms. And so I think people are open to that, because now just made me think of something else that I know, executives and even just managers, not just, but managers and entrepreneurs or small business owners, they have taken the time to listen to podcasts like ours and do these things, and they want to stay up with the times, but they also want their freedom, and they want time back. Time is all I keep hearing. I need more time so that I can have more freedom. And wherever that freedom lies, in some, it's just filling your calendar up with the white space your admin just gave you. And in others, it's taking time to be with your family. And that's coming up to the forefront of everybody's minds these days, it seems. They want more free time. And it might be a generational thing. I don't know.
No, it absolutely is. I think it's also the fact that, it's 2026 and we're expected to just do things faster and quicker, but it still takes time to get work done, no matter what
Yeah.
role you're in, whether you're in the front line or you're, at the C-suite. It takes time to get things done. Yeah, we have this cool thing called AI and other technology, but it takes time to learn that, and
Mhm.
they're not always user friendly either. So,
Right.
delegation is so important. Can't stress that enough. Even I'm a one person show, and for a good part of a year and a half, I had huge projects I had to work on, and I hired virtual assistants as
Good.
well. And the hardest part for me was trying to figure out, what do I delegate, and then getting out of my own way, going, oh, it's going to be too difficult to get
Yeah.
the information from my head to their head. So I'm sure you probably deal with that quite a bit too,
I
right?
do.
From your new clients going, yes, I want to use this, but how do I get the information from my head to their head? So any quick
Yeah.
tips or advice for that besides,
I mean,
mind reading?
other than that, yeah, it's a mindset shift, and it's not easy, and it's not everybody can do it. I mean, not everybody can do it. But it is definitely a mindset shift. And I always use this line and I say, trust but verify. If you can get yourself into taking a risk and trusting that this person has your best interests at heart and they want to help you look better outwardly and all those things, and you truly get that, and you've done your due diligence and you're interviewing and you're doing these things and asking all the questions to get the right person in the role, then go for it. I mean, it's like if you could just get that mindset shift and take a little risk, but know that you have to verify. Give them a little rope, they say, give them a little rope and test it. How does that rope look? How did they do? And give them feedback, especially in the remote world where I live. Feedback is essential, and you have to have it in written form most often, or leave. It's so great. Technology is great. You can do the little audio snippets or the Loom videos, whatever you have to do. But yeah, it's all about communication, communication, clarity, and trusting, but verifying, not micromanaging.
Absolutely. And for those that are listening that maybe still, I don't know, have a culture that says, no, you need to be in person. There's another stat that I'm going to provide you from Flex Jobs Workforce Survey, and it said that remote work flexibility is cited by 78% of employees as a key factor in job satisfaction and retention. So the flexibility, it's really just saying, hey, can I work remote sometimes? Now, I get it that some jobs you can't, you just can't. It's a physical labor job, it's an in-person job. But if there's a one day a month that individual has to write reports, why can't they do it from home?
Especially if it doesn't mean you have to be in a room writing on a dry erase board with a group of people, because you have to have that energy. Almost anything can be done remotely.
Right.
Anything.
Now, not to dive into this topic too much, but I just also wanted to, remind me, you, and our listeners that not everybody wants to work remote all the time.
True.
So, we think we went from COVID to everybody working remote because we had no choice to, okay, this is good. And then some people said, all right, you know what? I actually want to get away from my home and get back to the workplace. But, flexibility is the key there.
Yeah,
So,
I agree. 100%.
very, very important. If I was going to say, if you're listening and you're hiring, who isn't hiring? We're always looking for good staff, even if it's just because we're growing or somebody's, retiring or something like that. So let's switch this conversation a little bit more to recruiting. You've built your business around meticulous candidate selection and matchmaking. What do organizations often overlook when hiring like administrative or executive support talent?
They overlook and they underestimate the power of a good admin hire is something that I see a lot. So they struggle with control and privacy and trust. But I think it's just something that they need to work on a little bit more. But yeah, that's kind of the struggle is not really knowing what an admin can do, the power of a good admin hire. So it's more like do your homework, I think, when you're hiring for a new role, and learn more about what that role, here's that word again, has evolved into.
Yeah, exactly. I'm an HR consultant and we offer recruiting as well. And, the number one thing I tell anybody, I have a client and they're saying, hey, we need to hire somebody, whether they're, going through me or not. I'm like, all right, slow the roll down here. Let's not rush into it. I know you're desperate. I know you want to fill the spots, but let's literally really take into consideration, what are you really looking for? What do you need versus what do you want? What's reality? What's actually out there? What can you pay? That's a big thing. And then let's, do some backwards planning. But I see so many times companies just, we'll just wing it. We're going to put a job ad out. And I'm like, you've already potentially destroyed your brand by putting that job ad out that isn't that great, or you put a pay there and now your other employees are upset about it.
Yeah. And it's all about the job description, is it not, too?
Yes.
Like really come get that job description down good, because nobody also, something that's really relevant in my business is people ask for what I call golden unicorns. And not everybody's good at everything. So if it has to be two people, an executive assistant and a chief of staff, that's a nice combo right there. They work in tandem very well. So it's one of those things you really got to wrap your head around and talk to people who've been there.
Yeah, absolutely. And planning is so,
Yes.
so important. I love going ahead and say, oh, we're just going to figure it out. But it's for like my weekend plans, not for
Yeah,
my business plans.
exactly. I'll figure out what I want for dinner. Um, yeah,
And
that's
and
for sure.
also don't, talk to me a little bit about like salary studies or salary
Mhm.
research.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. That's something that I have recently done. And it's so easy these days to just do a quick Google search. What are EAs, executive assistants, would give like Chat GPT or something? There's where AI can be such a valuable tool for recruiters, even. What is the current range for an executive assistant in Denver, Colorado? Like do that granular drawdown. And but I'm in the suburbs. Does that affect the pay? And get it down to where you find pay that's, a range for that role and what your company can afford. But if you just do that due diligence and you can find it, you can go by the country, you can go by the state, you can go by the city, you can go by the suburb, whatever you
Right.
need to do. So make it, I mean, the salaries have definitely changed since I was there. They've definitely gone up, which makes me feel really good though, because I know that ties back to the recognition that and the evolution of the roles that are available to admins these days, which makes me feel good.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's so many tools out there. Like I use salary survey,
Yes.
salary surveys. You could also just look at your competitors' job ads. You know, it's
Amen.
de
That's the
I
easy
know,
way. Yeah,
right?
I
I
take
mean,
it.
depending on what state you're in, you may have to put an actual, compensation amount in the job ad. I
Yeah.
personally, I'm in the state of Florida. We don't have a whole heck of a lot of rules here, except for the federal laws that you have to follow. But I tell my clients, if you're not going to put a pay, at least a
Yeah.
range in the job ad, I'm not even working with you because
Yeah.
you're already telling people you're not transparent.
Oh,
And
exactly.
so, and there's a statistic from SHRM that says poor hiring decisions cost organizations roughly 30% of the employee's first year earnings. And
Wow.
so, you have them here, you're paying them for a year. And by the way, they're not happy. People around them aren't happy, and everybody's aware of it, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's all in the onboarding,
I
right?
wanted to get back to, so recruiting super
Yeah.
important, making sure you get your stuff done on time, whether it's an EA role, executive assistant, all the way up to, administrative operations. But let's circle back around and talk a little bit more
Yeah.
about delegation as a leadership
Mhm.
and growth strategy. I really, really, I struggled with this myself as I was growing in my career because my role was developing as I was going. And so I felt guilty of putting anything on people below me. But they were like, put
Mm.
me in, coach, put me in, coach. I
I
just
say that all
wasn't
the time.
right. I wasn't
I
asking the
love
right
it.
questions. So you talk a lot about effective delegation as a pathway to business
Mm.
excellence. Why do
Yes.
so many leaders struggle with delegation? And how can, our listeners who are mostly wearing the HR hat, whether
Yeah.
that's their official title or not, how can HR help organizations build delegation into leadership development?
Oh, yeah. If you have that leadership development budget, I think that might be a subject that's not taught much. It's just an expectation of a leader to know how to delegate or delegate well. And so I think maybe delegation training, which is something I don't know if it's out there, maybe as an HR person, if there's delegation training. A big one for me too, which will help a leader be better, is communications. And I only say that because in the last few years in managing accounts for my team, I feel like I should be a communications major because there's so much lost in communication. And that goes back to what I said earlier as well about clarity. And my biggest thing is teaching leaders to ask questions. Do you have what you need? Do you understand what I'm asking for? Do you understand what the due date is for this project? My expectation is this. Does that make sense? It's always turn it back into a million questions because to me, that's what's improved me as a leader is like, oh my gosh, I said this and I'm just assuming they understand it. But should I actually ask, does that make sense? And then get some feedback.
Yeah. Did you want a 4-page report or a one paragraph
Exactly.
report?
Is that going to take you an hour or 3 days? Because I need to know how long it's going to take them because maybe it's not in my wheelhouse and it's something they know how to do that I don't. So I need to know how long it takes them. And then I may reassess that, giving them that thing to do.
Yeah, absolutely. It is though. Like like I mentioned, I struggled with it, and then once I finally got a hold of delegation, I was like, "Ooh, this
Yeah,
is
it's fun.
exciting."
Level up, level up. Yes, you have leveled up. Congrats.
We were talking about, how it connects to the bottom line, and there's information from Gallup that say leaders who effectively delegate generate 33% more revenue.
Yes. I love
Yeah,
it.
than those who do
Yes.
not. Why? Because then they can go and do the job that they were hired to do instead of the
Yeah.
small tasks. So I
Yep.
feel like a lot of individuals, whether they're in the administrative roles or they have administrative roles reporting to them, they do one of two things. I don't want to bother them. They're already overwhelmed,
Yeah.
or they do the opposite and they just data dump but don't really give
Mm.
directions, and then they get
Yeah.
upset when it comes back with something they didn't want. So
Right.
any specific questions that you would suggest to your
Yeah.
EAs to be asking to the people that are delegating to them?
Same thing. It goes back to that word clarity because in our situation, the remote world, things can get lost in translation, lost in an email, lost in a handwritten, something or other on a board or a project management board. So, I mean, my go-to is audio messages. Because you can get tone, you can get how it's being delivered. If they sound, you can get kind of how they're feeling. Feelings make a lot of difference to me anyway, I think, so that leads me to something else I wrote down here for leadership development and delegation, emotional intelligence evaluations or training. Because a whole lot of things, you just got to be human. You got to know people go through stuff. And it may be that type of the day to be equipped with the words or the questions that you could ask if something feels off. Makes you a better delegator too.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's interesting that you said in there about emotions. What are you saying? That a text message doesn't have emotions?
It's so messed up. I'm not talking from experience or anything like that.
But it has an exclamation point. I know what it means. No, I'm just kidding.
Is she mad or she's so happy or like, I don't know, exclamation point can mean a couple different things, right?
Yes. Well, at Aurora Training Advantage, we do have training on delegation. And then also, if you are, for our listeners, if you are interested in hearing more on delegation, you should tune in to Bonnie's podcast, Delegate to Elevate.
Thank you.
Yeah,
It's delegate
absolutely.
to the number two elevatepodcast.com if they
I'll
want to
make
learn
sure I
more.
put it in the
Thank
podcast
you.
notes along with some other materials too.
The force multiplier.
Okay,
It's an
excellent.
amazing one from Hallie Werner. And it is about how a great admin hire can just multiply that leader and help them propel all that they do for their company or for their business. And then the other one that I grabbed from my shelf here is Become a Successful Virtual Assistant by Melissa Smith. If anybody's looking for more information on what a VA really does.
Yeah, I mean, they can definitely change your entire life. The future of administrative talent is here,
Yes.
whether they're virtual, whether they're in person, whether they're, on this continent or somewhere else. But if we can
Yes.
really, understand about strategic delegation, remote workforce models, and how it all affects the bottom line, I think it would really help your executives and including those small business owners that are listening, take a little bit breather and a little bit stress off them.
And give
Any
that to your admins too, because one other thing that an admin can do, if an admin is really busy and has a lot on their plate and the leader sees that, get a contractor to help your admin. That can be a thing too for projects, one-off projects, even.
I love it. I love it. I love all of this. I love to delegate. So please, everybody, check out her podcast and her information. And, remember that Bonnie has built a reputation for helping companies scale through smarter delegation and strategic talent matchmaking. So reach out if you do need any help. Thanks so much for coming today. This has been fun.
100. Thank you so much, Wendy. I appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. I hope this podcast session has been beneficial and helpful to you. Take care, everyone, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you for joining the HR Empowerment Podcast, brought to you by Aurora Training Advantage. We hope you've gained new insight and strategies to navigate the HR profession. We look forward to you joining us again on the HR Empowerment Podcast.